County board came to the police department and they met with somebody from the Juvenile Bureau and explained how the mandated reporting that, MRDD persons are mandated to report allegations of and suspicions of abuse and such, so that the police department really kind of needs to be notified. So they're trying to build on why they needed to be a part or have some kind of relationship with the police department. So the conversation, made the police department understand why it would be good to do this. And conversation included like the benefits of the consistency of having at least an officer dedicated to always being that kind of the go-to person when the county board needed to notify law enforcement. If you go to your local police agencies, depending on whatever size, as your previous speaker, Mike, had addressed frequently about training, if you contact your police departments, offer training and see if they will train you, share training in essence. We'll provide training to anybody, pretty much anybody that asks, and we talk about what you need and design things like that. In fact, we have a new police academy facility here, and on a yearly basis, all of us officers, we go through in-service training and just retrain and make sure we're up to date on things such as even just physical intervention. So myself being a detective, we still on a yearly basis have an in-service class of a few hours or half a day, whatever, they change it up and down, but physical intervention, if we happen to have to be physically involved with somebody who's trying to harm us or harm somebody else, how we can control that situation. We realize, or at least a lot of us do, that locking somebody up, throwing them in jail isn't always the best answer to handle a situation, especially with consumers in this population. So it's good to start trying making relationships, maybe between, if you have facilities in your county, with people, the police that work in that area, especially if they're getting calls to come and help at that facility, because if not, they're coming and they kind of don't know what to do. They don't know what your wishes are, what their options are, and they should be coming to you with open ears, give us some options on what you think would be best for this person. If you can get an agency to have at least one or two people pinpointed that you can always go to, that person can really work on getting training about this whole business and really become a unique officer in their abilities to help. So work on those relationships, and you can really convince your law enforcement why it's beneficial to start getting a relationship between the two agencies. Because it's not always going to be situations where they shouldn't be fearful of you interfering with police investigations, having access to information that they don't want public, or they're afraid that will get out to the wrong hands or media and stuff. There's so much more that you can do, and this is what you need to talk to your law enforcement agencies about, of why and how beneficial it can be to have a working relationship. I work in the Juvenile Bureau, which is where we also investigate child abuse. And the reason of that, and this is why if you contact your law enforcement agencies, maybe suggest where in their agency you'd like to have a contact person. And we feel that it's worked best this way because there are a lot of similarities, not to downgrade any consumers for their disabilities, but there are a lot of similarities in working with your population and children in general, especially with interviewing, which is why my position is out of Juvenile Bureau. A lot of similar interviews, techniques that we use when we deal with children. If you start thinking about it, like I'll give you a few examples, and can't go into all the interviewing today, too much to do, it would take a while. But when you think about it, a lot of consumers only have, for somebody to have a meeting with them or chat with them or an officer to talk to them, maybe get some information, there's only a short window of time a lot of times that you have to really get good quality information before their focus is not going to stay with you. Think about it, that's how children are. At different ages, obviously your windows are going to be different. Different consumers, depending on their disabilities and levels of functioning, is going to be different. However, if you go into it, or if you even have enough time to tell an officer, you know, you're only going to have 15 minutes, and after that, this person's going to want to go do this and that. You're going to totally lose them. So get to the meat of something if you can. So again, similar with children. Child abuse detectives just dress in business wear. They're not in uniforms. That's the best way to interview children if you're interviewing a child victim and really need to get details. Otherwise, children see a person in a uniform and they're going, what's this, what's that, what's that? To see all the shiny stuff on a uniform, all that stuff on a gun belt anymore. And they want to know what all that stuff is. Their focus is on what they're looking at, not your questions. So it's real similar a lot of times with interviewing consumers in this field, in that we need to understand that we need to take away a lot of distractions to get a good interview. Even so much as when my county board calls and says, well, let's go out and talk to so-and-so about what happened, I'll ask, you know, well, do they go to a workshop? What do they do during the day? When is their lunchtime? When is their transportation? Because if you're getting close to, for instance, lunchtime or their transportation home, they're worried about, I'm going to miss lunch, or I'm worried I'm going to miss the bus going home. Again, their focus has been distracted, and these are things that we need to understand, and that you can help police with to understand if you get law enforcement officers that aren't thinking on those lines yet. That's where you can be a help to law enforcement if they don't already know that, and what I've learned through a long road and the hard way.